Meet Vladimir Putin. Charismatic, mysterious, and always 3 steps ahead. But what's really going on behind those enigmatic eyes? Some say he fears NATO's creeping influence, seeing shadows of adversaries lurking in every corner, even hinting at plots to favor leaders like imprisoned Alexei Navalny. But plot twist, Russia isn't the only one feeling the heat. Enter China. Ever imagine the US building a Great Wall of ships around the Pacific? China does. Memories of old blockades like what the UK did to Germany still haunt. Together, Russia's strategic mind and China's manufacturing might are uniting against perceived threats. As the saga unfolds, the world watches, waiting. Stay tuned as we unravel the thrilling tale of West versus Russia and the chess game that could change everything. Ever wondered about the story behind the icy relations between the West and Russia today? Let's dive deep and unravel the mystery in simple terms. Picture this: a nation in chaos, exhausted and disoriented from tumultuous times, welcomes a new leader named Putin, an ex-spy. Putin's mission? To bring order after the wild 90s and give Russia a makeover, slightly more authoritarian. The West? They love it, for now. Putin plays the Patriot card, embracing tradition, and takes charge of Russia's oil and gas, which were in the hands of oligarchs until then. As an oligarch, you have 2 options: sell at a fair price or face prison. Putin's negotiation tactic returns the control of the energy sector to the Russian state, essentially to himself. 2008. Putin takes a break from the presidency but retains power, with Medvedev stepping into the spotlight. And speaking of Medvedev, have you seen his recent tweets? Quite something. By the way, this break is due to Russian law, which only allows a president to serve for 8 consecutive years. That's now different, as Putin changed the rules, of course. Now shifting to the broader landscape. Imagine Europe post the Soviet breakup, with new countries emerging everywhere. However, it's not all sunshine and roses. Ethnic tensions escalate, and the capitalism becomes the trend for these nations. Enter NATO. They're expanding. 12 countries between 1999 and 2009, and Russia isn't pleased. The outcome? Heightened tensions and frozen conflicts. Ukraine enters the chat. Ever wondered why there's so much tension between Ukraine and Russia? Strap in as we dive deep into a history filled with twists and turns. Picture this: Ukraine was once the shining star of the Soviet Union, even outshining some other republics. But in 1991, they said, "We want out," and declared independence. Imagine the shockwaves that sent. Since then, Ukraine has been walking on a tightrope, trying to be buddies with both the West, think EU and NATO, and its big neighbor, Russia. It's like trying to keep 2 best friends who don't like each other. In 2014, things got heated. Ukraine's president backtracked on a deal with the EU, and people were livid. They felt betrayed and took to the streets in massive protests. Russia steps in, but Russia saw this differently. To them, it was a plot by the West. They reacted by claiming Crimea as their own, a bold move not seen since World War II. And the plot thickens when they start supporting rebels in eastern Ukraine. An attempt to solve the crisis came in the form of the Minsk Accord in 2015. Sounds promising, right? But it didn't quite work out. Why? Russia said, "Hey, we're not directly involved, so we're not bound by it." Some even believe that it was a US and EU strategy to arm Ukraine so it could oppose Russian interference. The heart of the matter? Ukraine's like, "We're our own nation. We call the shots here," while Russia's all, "Not so fast." But who's right in geopolitical terms? For some context, let's time travel to 1823. The US president then, James Monroe, sent Europe a clear message: stay out of the Americas. This is the Monroe Doctrine. Now Russia is applying a similar rationale to Ukraine. Recall the Cuban Missile Crisis? Russia certainly does. It involved the USSR sending missiles to Cuba and the US responding with threats of nuclear retaliation. Thankfully, a resolution was found. In Russia's eyes, Ukraine is their Cuba. The US should not meddle, and Ukraine should steer clear of NATO. Just when you thought it couldn't get more intense, 2022 hit. Russia went all out, invading Ukraine with the aim to dethrone Zelensky, a West-leaning leader. The West's involvement in Ukraine. When Russia decided to step foot in Ukraine in 2022, the West was like, "Nope, not on our watch." They came together like the superheroes in the movies, ready to show Russia that they weren't playing games. But when you take a closer look, the picture gets a tad complicated. Sure, the big shots like NATO, G7, and even the US were like, "We're with you, Ukraine." Yet when it came to actually jumping into the action, they took a step back. It's like they handed Ukraine the weapons but didn't join the fight, all in the name of keeping the peace. Instead, the West tried to hit Russia where it hurts, their wallet. They slapped Russia with some heavy-duty sanctions, causing their economy to tank up to 15%. But there's a twist. The West wanted to cut off Russia's oil and gas, but guess what? They couldn't. Here's the tea. The West started feeling the heat too. Energy prices went through the roof, and suddenly everyone's wallets felt lighter. The funny thing is, governments kinda kept hush about the whole thing, hoping folks wouldn't notice, but hey, we did. While some say, Putin's plan totally backfired, the whole win-lose situation is kinda blurry. The West, trying to avoid a big showdown, may have looked like the gentle giant. And here's the kicker, the West's moves may have nudged Russia closer to China, just when they were trying to put China in the timeout corner. The world's watching and they have mixed feelings. Some countries are side-eyeing the West more than they're mad at Russia. Plus, Moscow and Beijing might be thinking, is this our chance to change the game? Now let's examine the current media narratives, from the most mainstream stories that everyone is talking about to the under-the-radar news that slipped through the cracks. Internal coup 2.0. Let's dive into the buzz around internal coup 2.0. Some are whispering about tension inside the Kremlin, suggesting big political shakeups. Did you know? Some of the West believes that a change in Russia's leadership could be the ticket to ending the Ukraine conflict. Imagine this, Putin steps down, replaced by someone even more nationalistic, opening the door for peace talks. Wild, right? The bigwigs in the Kremlin, their main game is keeping their riches and influence, even if that means saying goodbye to Putin. And here's where it gets spicy. This isn't just a theory. Remember Yevgeny Prigozhin? He made a bold move to snatch the Kremlin's top spot, but crashed and burned in less than 24 hours. Though he struck a deal with Putin to avoid jail, by August 2023, he met his end in a plane crash. And the plot thickens as many are side-eyeing Putin, wondering if he had a secret role in the crash. Call it the drama of internal coup 1.0. NATO gives up on Ukraine and Russia wins the war. Imagine a shocking twist in global drama. NATO backs away and Russia claims victory in Ukraine. But why would NATO leave Ukraine to its own fate? Well, the US elections are next year, and the average US voter wants the money being spent in Ukraine to cover the holes at home. But what happens next? Without NATO support, Ukraine will struggle to defend its territories from Russia's advances. Envision a shifting map and potential crises as Ukrainians face hardships. There's more. Many Ukrainians who once trusted NATO and the West might now feel betrayed. Guess what? Opponents, especially Russia, could use NATO's departure as a PR stunt, suggesting the alliance is crumbling. Might NATO's reputation plummet? Here's the wild card. The EU could change its position. With soaring prices due to interrupted Russian energy and Ukrainian grain supplies, citizens might rally behind new leaders, such as those from the Alternative for Germany or Marine Le Pen in France. Becoming the new Venezuela. Ever thought about what would happen if Russia went down the same path as Venezuela? Let me paint a picture for you. A glimpse at the past. Imagine once booming nations like Libya and Venezuela turned upside down with political chaos and civil unrest, seeing their energy exports crash. Libya, for instance, went from producing 1.7 million barrels of oil per day to just 365,000 in 2020. And Venezuela? Its production hit rock-bottom lows not seen in decades. Now, shift your focus to Russia. It's already wobbled under sanctions and global backlash. Dive deeper into a future with escalating conflicts, and you might see their GDP dipping, inflation soaring, and joblessness growing. As big international businesses say goodbye to Russia, industries from flights to gadgets might find empty shelves. Russia's reliance on a few industries and sanctions tying its hands, that's a formula for a tough time bouncing back. But wait, before you think Russia's fate is sealed, remember China. They've got deep pockets and a vested interest in not seeing Russia crash, so there's hope yet. But where's Russia headed? The aftermath of its actions in Ukraine sends shockwaves, shaping its path for years to come. Remember one golden rule of geopolitics. Russia's like that mind-bending puzzle you can never quite solve. In Churchill's words, it's a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma.